that fought and died for your weeping hill and glen that stood against him and them. Proud Edward's army and sent them homeward to think again. The hills are bare now, and autumn leaves lie thick and still. Our land that is lost now, which those so dearly held that stood against them. Proud Edward's army and sent them homeward to think again. These days are past now, and in the past they must remain. But we can still rise now and be the nation again that stood against him. Proud Edward's army and sent them homeward to think again. Oh, blue of Scotland, when will we see your like again? That fought and died for your weaving hill and glen that stood against them. Proud Edward's army and sent them homeward to think again. Blue of Scotland, when will we see your light again? That fought and died for your weeping hill and glen and stood against them. Proud Edward's army and sent them homeward to think again. And with these great strains of the Scottish national anthem, I welcome you this morning to the Lindsay Tartan Politics Show. And I'm Lindsay Griffiths, and I'm here at the headquarters of the Scottish Heritage Party, standing for the true Scottish heritage of all those who stood against him, Proud Edward's army, and all the others in the years between then and now. And I'm asking you the question this morning: is this not the end of an era for the SNP? Let's watch this space. So, first of all, great news, all this exciting news this morning. And we all know what the top two news items are, but before then, something very, very important. And I just love the dear people we were with in Northern Ireland not very long ago. In fact, we sailed, because we're just across the water here from Ireland, from the island of Ireland. And we sailed from Stranraer just along the road, or rather I should say Cairnryan, which is a new port just beside Stranraer, across just a couple of hours across the water to Larne. And you know, that was actually a strange thing that we actually sailed on St. Patrick's Day, the 17th of March. And we went and headed down the road a bit to Portadown to a wonderful, wonderful first ever conference of the Heritage Party Northern Ireland. And thanks from us all here at the Scottish Heritage Party. Thanks go especially to Glenn Beattie. And God bless you, Glenn, who is the Northern Ireland coordinator for the Heritage Party. Thanks go to Glenn and his team and his supporters, the supporters of the party who turned up in large numbers on Friday night, Saturday night and Sunday night to hear the speakers who were very, very inspiring. Just very quickly, the speakers included David Curtin, who's the leader of the National Heritage Party, England and Wales. They also included David Griffiths here at our base, who was speaking on the coronation oath and the British Constitution. I forgot to mention that David Curtin was speaking on a very serious subject, very important, cultural Marxism. And there were some other wonderful speakers as well. Everything, it was just absolutely wonderful. And we're hoping and believing on having a Scottish Heritage Party conference along similar lines later this year. So thanks again, and God bless all of you, not forgetting the team from Abolish Abortion Northern Ireland as well, standing for life. So now, apart from that wonderful, wonderful conference, which is still fresh in our memories, let's go on to two interesting topics this morning. Why do you think I began this program by singing Flower of Scotland, the Scottish national anthem? What do you think? Guess. Yes, you've got it. You're right. It's all about football. And there's a lovely picture of Scott McTominay and the team in one of our papers today or yesterday, the Scotsman. And what a performance he put on. This has never been seen since the days of the goal scored in the early 1980s by Sir Kenny, the famous Sir Kenny Dalglish playing for Scotland. They actually defeated Spain then, and this means that there's been no defeat of Spain for, 40 years or thereabouts. And last night it happened. Might have been something to do with the Hampden Roar, maybe. Who knows? And maybe the bad weather didn't help. But congratulations to Steve Clark with his Liverpool roots, the grand Scottish manager, and his wonderful players, including, of course, Captain Andy Robertson and so many others. And it was a joy last night, although we weren't able to actually watch the match. And I think there's been some complaints about this because the match was put on a very obscure TV channel most of us haven't heard of before, called Via. And furthermore, you had to pay to go on it. So people were moaning and groaning a bit. I've already read about it, saying, why couldn't it be on BBC or STV? Or what about the Gaelic channel for Scotland, Alba? Because after all, they do have Wales international football matches on S4C, the Welsh language channel. So what about it? You know, because not everybody has even heard of VIA, never mind can afford to pay the amount. So it was a joy as well to see former Scotland goalkeeper David Marshall, though, afterwards on the sports news commenting on the match. And what a joy to see him there. For the first time he's ever done that. He did very well. So what a joy. I mean, for Scotland to beat Spain. Now, Spain, the national team, is at the moment rated 10th in the world rankings. And Scotland is 36 places below Spain. Well, I think it's great because we've already seen the revival and resurgence of Scottish rugby, who this year in the Six Nations Cup, and we're coming up to Rugby World Cup, of course, they've actually done ever so well and ended up in the rankings well above England, Wales and Italy, although to be fair on Italy, they have improved a lot. And this is wonderful news. But again, we're very, very sorry to hear that our lovely Scottish rugby captain, Stuart Hogg, who comes from the Borders, I believe, is going to be retiring from international rugby, at least. I don't know about the other rugby, I can't remember, but it's going to be retiring after the World Cup. So well done, Scotland, coming to the fore in football and rugby. So this is we're going to go on now to one or two other slightly, perhaps less edifying matters concerning, surprise, surprise, our new, as one newspaper puts it, farce minister. I love that. Yes, you got it. F-A-R-C-E, farce minister. It's a brilliant, I think it's on the, I can't remember if it's a Daily Record or another paper, but I'll show you in a minute when I come to the papers. I think it was hilarious. Well, that is, of course, Hamza Yusuf, who was supposed to be the establishment or continuity. It's a Scottish Sun. I've got it here somewhere, Ken, but I hadn't quite found it. Thank you very much for that, Dave. I think it just says it all. Well, there's lots to find out and lots to know about Hamza Yusuf, MSP. It's quite a sad story, really. He hasn't got an easy task because he only won over Kate Forbes when Ash Regan, who also conducted a good campaign, she was eliminated in the first round of voting a few days ago, and that she just had just over 11%. But on the second round of voting, I've got the figures here. Hamza Yusuf scored 52.1%. Very close second was Kate Forbes with nearly 48%. So it has been a very close run race. Before you get overexcited, this is not actually as it seems. The SNP have apparently always gone banging on, as they say, about democracy. You know, and that includes Scottish independence, of course, and how awful it was for this UK government on legal advice to put a stop or a halt to the transgender bill which was going to go through otherwise. Well, what is all this about democracy? Okay, in recent weeks we found out, we know that the SNP membership, similar to what happened with the UK Prime Minister, with Liz Truss, the SNP membership was to vote for this new First Minister. Great, you say. Well, the SNP membership 3 years ago, just to remind you, was apparently about 125,000, apparently. And it's now fallen to just over 70,000. And in the middle of all this, which was kept highly secret, of course, not only did Nicola Sturgeon resign as First Minister, but Peter Murrell, her husband, was forced to resign over certain, we've already got dubious financial dealings within the party, which he seems to be associated with. But we've also got distinct lack of information, or maybe even distorted information about the membership figures, which led to, I believe, their communications officer resigning recently in great upset. We've also had the resignation, of course, of the Deputy First Minister, former one, John Swinney. Isn't that interesting? So, thank you. It's all a bit of a heavy scene. Anyway, so we found out there's something like, I don't know, I think it was 75,000 members maximum still left in the SNP. Well, by the time you count the fact there was a 70% turnout, which might say isn't too bad for voting for a new First Minister, you're left with 50,000 people out of a population of about 5 or just over 5 million who actually voted for this First Minister. And out of that, it was almost a 50-50 split between the two main leading candidates, Hamza Yusuf and Kate Forbes. So it isn't exactly a glorious conclusion, is it? Now, there's a very, 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 very clever Professor John Curtis, who is known throughout the UK to be a massive authority on voting behaviour and such. He's a professor at Strathclyde University. And, you know, he was saying that's very, very tight. And shall I say that Hamza Yusuf, if he's wise, would realize his rather precarious position. And like any sensible politician, if these such exists, I think they do exist, one or two of them, any sensible politician knows that to avoid potential enemies either stabbing you in the back or even in a more honorable way bringing about your downfall, you must hold out an olive branch to them. So, after a rather unconvincing hug between Hamza Yusuf and this, I'm trying to show you this. There's a hug there going on between Hamza Yusuf and Kate Forbes, which looks anything but convincing. But at least it was a hug. Now, after this, of course, predictably, Hamza Yusuf was made officially First Minister by a vote in the Scottish Parliament at Holyrood. And not a hugely convincing vote. I think out of all, because all MSPs, whatever their party have to vote, I think it was 71 for him out of, goodness me, so it's nearly 50, I think, who either didn't vote at all or voted against him. After that, so it's still pretty precarious. And he's just been sworn in, as many of you will know, at the Court of Session in front of the top Scottish law lords. He's been sworn in officially as First Minister of Scotland and Keeper of the Scottish Seal. I think they mean official seal, not oh. But you can never be sure these days, can you? But anyway, only joking. So that's all happened. So what does he do? Does he hold out an olive branch to his very close runner-up, who is reputed, according to Professor John Curtis and others, to be enormously popular among the general population of Scotland, even among SNP members? But the general voting population of Scotland, she's very popular, probably more popular than our new First Minister, it would seem. In spite of all, plus the fact she had a very high-powered job up until now of Finance Secretary, which is at least one of the very top jobs in the Scottish government. So she's a very capable girl, qualified accountant and all that. In spite of all that, you know what he's done? I mean, how can he possibly hold the party together? Because it was admitted just a few days before the leadership results on Monday. SNP is gripped by chaos. Party is in a tremendous mess after Sturgeon's husband quit, admits new interim chief as Kate Forbes trashes former leader's record in new infighting. And this chap was Mike Russell, the interim chief of the party, who said the SNP needs to start off in, surprise, surprise, here's that word again, an entirely reset position. Well, what a surprise. And things had gone spectacularly wrong in recent weeks for the party. So it was general chaos. And then Mr. Murrow, of course, Nicola Sturgeon's husband, had announced his resignation just a few days before, amid rumours he faced a potential vote of no confidence by the SNP's National Executive Committee. What a mess, right? And of course, John Swinney resigned, and the press secretary, whoever does the information press results for the SNP, resigned over this strange carry-on over the Scottish membership figures, which were SNP membership figures. In spite of all that, and in spite of a relatively close vote in the Scottish Parliament for our new First Minister, and despite the fact that Kate Forbes is clearly enjoys great popularity not only among SNP members but the Scottish public in general, it would seem, Scottish voters. In spite of all that, you know what he's done? Our dear Hamza Yusuf, he offered her a major demotion in the form of Rural Affairs Minister. Now, we all know that she comes from Skye, but, you know, This is obviously a major insult, which very understandably, not surprisingly, she has emphatically turned down and retired to the back benches. This is a very, very, very stupid move. I mean, I would go so far as to call Hamza Yusuf by his behavior towards Miss Forbes as an absolute fool. And gosh, how corny can you get? You know what he's done instead? He's made the new First Minister, a lady called, I think it's Shona Robertson, who is MSP for just down the road from, I think, Dundee City East. And he's made her his deputy. Now, I wonder why. Okay, she was a former health minister. Not a very successful one, I believe. But I think it might just have something to do with the fact that she was one of the two who nominated him originally as a candidate for First Minister and supported his campaign, together with another MSP called Neil Gray. How corny can you get? They're already on his side. They're already, he's already got them when he wants them. But why do that? It's so predictable. It's so stupid. You want to get your enemy. It's a well-known fact, not only in Scotland, but actually more in Scotland, because it was quite a nasty campaign in many ways. It was pretty feisty. And there were a lot of very nasty things and well-known infighting going on amongst the SNP. And then Hamza Yusuf said, "Oh, don't lurch to the right." But why not? Because the SNP was originally, and still is, really, as we're finding out, it's a conglomeration or confederation of people who are held together just by one thing, that most of them, or not all of them, want independence for Scotland. That's all it is. But there should be a left and a right in such an alliance of people, should there not? And then we come to the very vexed issue of the Green Party, Scottish Green Party alliance. Now, obviously those who come from rural areas, of which there are many in Scotland, Orkney, Shetland, the Highlands and Islands, the Outer Hebrides to Skye and Loch Harbour, the borders, Dumfries and Galloway, a lot of Ayrshire and Arran, all these areas and constituencies. They're all green. Scotland's got a massive number of farmers and fishermen. Massive. Really massive in proportion to the population. There's so much green area there. But the Green Party are no friends of farmers, are they? Because they're going to have us eating insects. Are they not? Locusts and such like. Aren't they? And there are all sorts of things they want to stop, like meat and making cows wear masks and things. So it's not surprising that Kate Forbes was not too happy with the Green Party, unlike our lovely Hamza Yusuf, who of course is embracing them. And you know what's interesting about the Green Party? They have a culture of death. Yeah, I mean it. You look at one Green MSP, whose name escapes me at the moment, has put forward a bill for assisted dying, brackets terminally ill bill, assisted suicide in other words. Great. So they really don't stand for growth at all, do they? Not to mention the fact that they're not best friends with Scotland's oil, which was the original slogan of the SNP when they really started to come to power. In the 70s, 80s, 90s, it's Scotland's oil. What a mess. So, this Hamza Yusuf is unbelievable, really. He's also a friend of the Greens. He hasn't had the good sense to keep his potential enemies on board. Perhaps he should offer something to Ash Regan as well. No. He just does the usual old thing, and pats his buddies on the back. It's just so unbelievable. Yes, well, anyway, let's look at a wee bit of history of Hamza Yusuf, shall we? Some of this is a little bit. Let's look at his political career and all the little gaffes he made. He was first elected in 2011 as an MSP, which makes him quite young. because even now he's age 37. So, oh, goody, he's young. He's also the first person of an ethnic minority and the first Islamic apparent believer to be elected. That is not a problem in itself at all. It's good, perhaps, but is he a real Muslim? That's the question you've got to ask. Because mainstream Islamic belief is definitely against same-sex marriage, not to mention transgender issues and so on. So he's either a member of a very, very, very liberal mosque, or he's calling himself something that he actually isn't, because he's certainly not standing for mainstream Islamic beliefs. Anyway, he first got promoted higher to Minister of Transport in 2016, we read, where he made a name for himself by issues with a rather collapsing ScotRail, which was known as ScotFail at that time. Yes, because it went overcrowded trains and there were train cancellations, they didn't run on time. And then, worse still, this is still rumbling on, this one. There was the ongoing ferries saga. You just look up, when you've got a minute, Ferguson Marine, which is the supposed company that we're going to be building ferries, and you look at the breakdown of the former McBrain's ferries, the state of them, and it's highlands and islands. People are absolutely up in arms, and they still are, about the state of the ferries. Oh, it's hilarious. You'll love this bit. To cap it all, in December 2016, Yusuf was slapped with a £300 fine and 6 penalty points in his driving license after being caught by police for driving a friend's car without insurance. Oh, he's a beaut. That's a good Minister of Transport, is it not? And then, Nicola Sturgeon, as usual, decided there was only one thing to do with our friend, and that was to promote him. So she made him Justice Secretary in 2018. And you know, that was really good. You know, he's the first minister, and I don't mean first minister, I mean first government minister at that time in the whole of Europe not to have a law degree. That's great, isn't it? So a nice amateur Justice Secretary, where he spent most of his time desperately trying to, you might remember this one, to pass the notorious Hate Crime and Public Order Scotland Limited, nicely gagging freedom of speech throughout Scotland. The legislation was aiming to stir up a new offence called stirring up hatred. Yes, described by the veteran MP who's still around, veteran Grandee, I think you would call him, of the SNP, Jim Sillars. He's very critical of the inroads that the recent years of Scottish government have made into free speech. Jim Sillars said it was one of the most pernicious and, yes, dangerous pieces of legislation ever produced by any government in modern times in any part of the United Kingdom. Beautiful, isn't it? So in trying to pass this bill, he managed to alienate the Roman Catholic Church, the National Secular Society, the BBC, oh well, big deal, the BBC, the Scottish Police Federation, and the Faculty of Advocates, in other words, barristers, called South of the... And this was only passed, this bill, after successive amendments. So he really stirred up a hornet's nest there, even among his own party. Didn't he? Well, anyway, we've got a few other things. This is hilarious, this one. Just last but not least, during his reign as Justice Secretary, I love this one. Let's not forget the Dundee police station, where the ceiling collapsed. Just hours after Yusuf labelled criticisms of that building, or the police force's buildings, as hyperbole, in other words, over-exaggerated. The only sad thing is that it didn't collapse on him when he was still visiting them. But there you go, you can't have everything, can you? Oh dear. Okay, he's done some horrendous things on social media as well. I'll just mention one of them. Mind you, okay, some people do make gaffes on social media. I admit this. A lot of people, but still. he rushed to slam Rangers footballers recently on Twitter for being filmed, supposedly making, you got it, sectarian chants. A video which was subsequently shown to be a fake, but he still refused to apologise for shooting his mouth off at that point. He should investigate his sources. Oh well, after 3 years as Justice Secretary, poor dear Nicola decided there's only one thing to do with Humza Yousaf, and that was promote him again. Oh yes. So he then became Health Secretary, and we all know what's happened since then. Crisis in Scotland's health service. Scotland, the drug capital of Europe, is terrible. Europe's highest per capita rate of drug deaths. Still like that, still there. More than 3.5 times higher as well than the rest of the UK. Oh, great. Some health secretary, huh? Perhaps it's just as well he's been promoted again. Right, there you go. That's only a little bit, just a little bit of the gaffes that our friend has made in previous years in the run-up to this leadership contest, this First Minister. Oh, go on then. There you are. SNP. We have a wee look at the papers for today. SNP at war, the Daily Record says, as Kate quits. Well, they are at war. There's massive infighting. Another one, the Herald. Oh, there's a cosy picture of dear Humza Yousaf and his wee family. Ever so sweet. But it's a blow for new First Minister as she snubs her pathetic demotion. Yeah, my favourite is, as you know already, the Sun newspaper on farce minister. Well, it is going to be a farce. How is he ever going to unite the SNP at this rate? And this next one is, Forbes quits SNP cabinet over Humza job insult. And there's a picture at the top of that one, the Scottish Daily Mail, which Nicola Sturgeon's absolutely piddled off, to put it frankly, sitting in the back benches listening to all this and thinking, oh my God. Or perhaps she's worrying about her next driving lesson or whether she'll pass her driving test, but she doesn't look too happy, does she? Okay, we've got other ones. Oh, I haven't seen this one, I don't think. Oh, the Aberdeen Press and Journal. Oh no, it's dreadful. Now that's another thing. Okay, I'm listening to what David's telling me here. You know, that's another thing. When we were over in Northern Ireland, bless them, in spite of all the troubles that they've had over the years and until the so-called Good Friday Agreement and so peace agreement and so on, in spite of all that, their roads are immaculate. And remember that these roads are leading to and from major ferry ports nearly Belfast and Larne in Ireland. Cool. You should try the road, the A75, going from Gretna Green all the way to Stranraer and Cairnryan, our major ferry port. It's really bad, full of potholes.
Lindsay, just a quick one. Hi, I'm David, husband of. Listen, the A75 from Stranraer to Dumfries takes ages to get along behind lorries, particularly after the ferries come in. What happens if you're a mother wanting to give birth? You are a bastard. Bastards you are in the SNP. I'll tell you why. You're causing so much carnage and death through your green policies.
Absolutely.
People can't afford to heat their homes. People can't have their babies like they used to have in a nearby hospital.
Yes, absolutely.
And the A9 is a carnage bin. And it's your alliance with the Greens which has stopped road building. It is killing people. Your obsession with net zero is killing people. Absolutely. It's a total scam. And you, when I say bastards, you're without a father. I'm not using a sweary word as they call them in Scotland. You're without a father, because if you had a father, you'd care about the children.
Yeah, amen. And you know what? David said it all really, except for one other little thing. Guess who was Minister of Transport for some years when all these roads were falling apart here? And guess who's been Health Minister up until now? Yes, you got it. Our new First Minister, Hamza Yusuf. So, but you know, because Dumfries and Galloway, it's a rural area with farms and cows. You know, they're not fashionable with the Greens, are they? You know, and also, guess what? We are mainly or majority unionists. Yes, with a big conservative vote, the Scottish Conservatives, and hopefully an increasing vote for the Scottish Heritage Party. Yeah. And it's pathetic, isn't it? You know, again, malicious spite. All the money spent nearly is in the Central Belt, their beloved little cities, because these are the only people that actually voted majority in 2014 referendum for independence, the majority. These were the 4 regions out of Scotland's 23 local authority regions that voted in the referendum 2014 for independence, a majority. They are, yes, surprise, surprise, Glasgow, Dundee, North Lanarkshire and West Dunbartonshire. Wow. And Dundee also happens to be the drug capital of the country, which is the drug capital of drug-associated deaths in Europe. What a glorious record for Dundee. And I know all about it because I lived there for a while. My family are from there, a lot of them, on my mum's side. So, you know, don't think I don't know Hamza Yusuf. Well, watch this space. I think that's nearly all from the Lindsay Tartan Politics Show today from the Scottish Heritage Party, except please join our party. You can see the SNPs falling apart. You can see they've got a pretty uncomfortable and incompetent First Minister who's hanging on there by his fingernails. Yep. And who isn't really doing the right things as yet to bring the party together. But you know, a lot of people that I know were disappointed that Kate Forbes didn't get elected. But I'm thinking that really from the point of view of the Scottish people as a whole and the Scottish Heritage Party to represent the Scottish people, I'm thinking this could all work together for our benefit. Because you've seen now the divisions, the secrecy, the infighting and general incompetence of so many in the SNP. They say dead wood always floats, you know, so there you go. And with that thought, thank you for being with me this morning. I think we've had a lot of fun, haven't we? We've talked about Northern Ireland and the conference there. We've talked about football. We've talked about the First Minister and the divisions in the SNP. But I'll leave you on an inspiring note. Vote for the Heritage Party. Join us now. Vote for life. And that includes you, Kate Forbes, dear. And decide to join us one day. You'll be very welcome. Here, this is bye-bye from me and David that you've just seen as well at the headquarters of the Scottish Heritage Party here in Whithorn, Dumfries and Galloway. Home of the Covenanters, home of St. Ninian, who brought Christianity to Scotland, and home of lots of coups. So, we love you. God bless. And I'm going to sing the Skyboat song. Bird on the wing, onward the sailors cry. Carry the land that's born to be king, over the sea to sky. Loud the winds howl, loud the waves roar, thunder claps rend the air. Baffled our foes stand by the shore, follow